It's Tuesday, the Rick Corey Sports Special. Now talking to Antonio Graham, the head coach of the Owasso Rams. This sponsored by Tulsa Accident Care Center, who I'll tell you more about in a moment. So we're down to eight, four teams from the West, four teams from the East, and you guys get Deer Creek. And this time of year, Antonio, a lot of times you'll play somebody you might have seen during the regular season, but you're getting a Deer Creek team you haven't seen. But I'm sure you've been watching film. So tell me your impressions thus far.
The first thing is their coaching staff. I Wade Stanley, he's a old union guy himself. Me and him kind of go way, way back. He's an Okema graduate. He's from Okema, where
Yeah.
Johnny Bohannon is from. And so Coach Bohannon, who was my linebacker coach, he coached me back in high school. Huge mentor of mine. And so Coach Stanley, he's an awesome guy. He's a guy that, I kind of, look for information as a young head coach. And he's definitely helped me along the way. And their defensive coordinator, you're familiar with this guy, Steve Neal. He's a guy that when I first started coaching, he impacted me unbelievably. So can't say enough about their coaching staff. And the biggest thing is I just know how those guys' character is, Coach Stanley and Coach Neal. So you don't have to, you got a bunch of guys on film that plays hard, and that's the biggest thing is they're going to play it don't matter what the score is, Rick. Those kids don't quit. They're well sound, very coachable, don't make a lot of mistakes. Their quarterback is amazing. He's a great athlete. Grady Adamson.
Mhm.
He is going to Georgia Tech, and he's a great football player. And Georgia Tech, they recruit special quarterbacks who can obviously throw the ball and who can run. They got a great tailback named Jalen Davis as well, and they have a huge receiver. He's been out, but his name is Mason Smith. He's number 11 for them, and he's kind of like their emotional leader on the football team. It's one of those deals where once he steps on the field, you just feel like a different energy kind of comes along, and so he's a huge target. And defensively, they're well sound. They got a great safety that comes downhill and fit in the box. That he reminds me of an old school John Lynch, type kid that
Yeah.
would come down and fill in gaps from 10 yards from he's lined up 10 yards deep, but he's making plays at line of scrimmage. So we kind of got our hands full on this one, Rick.
Grady Adamson is a guy. I'm glad you brought him up. I was going to mention him. You mentioned those Georgia Tech quarterbacks. Haynes King is down there right now, who's one of those guys, really dual effort. And Adamson's a guy who's rushed for over 400 and thrown for over 1,600. But if you had to pick what he does best, what would you pick?
Man, he's a dual threat guy. He reminds me a lot of the a little bit of the Norman North kid,
Yeah.
and also a little bit of the Edmond Memorial kid. Obviously, he can really spin the football, but what's unique about him, he can also run the football. So they do a bunch of read zones type quarterback scheme, like a quarterback run game, and so not only you got to do a good job in the secondary, but you also got to account for him in the run game as well. And by them having a good tailback and having a guy that can leave the pocket, it keeps the defense honest. And
Mhm.
so we got to do a good job of containing him as well.
Are they a big, motion team, misdirection team, or are they pretty base?
No, they motion a lot. They're going to get you in condensed formations and pack everybody in, and they're going to run guys all over the place. So you just got to do the biggest thing with them that I see. That if you don't communicate, because once they bunch people up and they got guys going this way, and it could really hurt you, and it could really hurt you. And so we just got to do a good job of identifying their formations, and communication is going to be huge for us, Rick.
And people see that we say that word a lot in football these days, something that, we didn't say. I mean, it's always been there, but it wasn't
Hmm.
kind of stated until it is now. And every week from every level, you hear communication. Explain what you really mean by that, though, because for us, you and I are communicating, but when you're
Yeah,
talking
right.
about yelling at a corner who's on the
Right.
field side, that's a
Yep.
different thing. How do you get that there? What do you work on?
The biggest thing is we make sure we practice it here on the football field. We make a call to our defensive guys, and our safety has to make sure that if he makes a call to the corner, he has to make sure he taps his helmet, and that's how you know he got the call. The last thing that I don't want to see on the football field from a DB, and you see it a lot when a kid gets beat or a DB busts a call, they always do their hands up. Don't give me palms up. Palms up will get you on the bench. And so the biggest thing is we want to make sure that the linebackers tap off, the safety taps off, and we want to see that line of communication because it's huge. And if we don't see guys tapping off, like we need to see it on film. We want to see it during practice. And so we've been real huge these last few weeks of just making sure that our corner, our DB coaches and the whole defense is making sure that you're keen on your guys and communication is huge.
The other thing that happens this time of year, and I talked to Coach Montgomery about this yesterday, is eyes right. We hear eyes right all the time. And when you're dealing with a team that does what you're talking about, they're crossing, they're motioning, they're
Hmm.
doing those things. You have to keep a young player doing their job. During your
Hmm.
bye week, did you work on that? And how do you specifically work on that at Owasso? Because everybody not necessarily wants to be a hero, but you know what it's like. You see something out of the corner of your eye, you've been there. Hey, I can
Hmm.
make that play. You
Hmm.
want to because it's innate that you want to go make the play. How do you keep that from happening?
The biggest thing is like, obviously we have to make sure that we show them examples of why it's important to do your biggest job, your 111, that's what we call it, and how important that is. It happened to us in the past and it hurt us. And we constantly remind those guys by how it's important to do your only job. Like corners, your job is to stay in coverage. It's not if the quarterback breaks the pocket, you don't come up and go force the quarterback to throw it because you leave your guy wide open. You show them those examples over and over again, and no kids don't like to to feel the defeat or getting beat mode, definitely as a DB. So if you don't do that, that's the feeling you're going to have, and that's going to cause you to get less playing time. And so that's the biggest example that we do.
Do you drill it in a certain ways, or you just, drill it?
Absolutely, yes, sir. We have a deal that we do in practice every day. We call it our scramble drill that we do. Just in 707 Skelly, and we have a word that we use called plaster. And plaster mean like you're painting something on the wall. It means you're sticking something. Like so, if when the quarterback starts scrambling, you find a guy in a different color jersey and you stick to him, and you don't let him go until you hear the whistle blow. And so there's times where we actually have scenarios where we set up in Skelly or in team where we do a scramble drill. We just say, "Hey, quarterback, scramble," and we just say, and we yelling plaster, 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 and their job is to find the nearest guy in a different color. And you stick to him, and you do not let him go. If he
Yeah.
goes to the bathroom, you go right with him.
By the way, Skelly is skeleton drill, which means you're not really using offensive, defensive linemen, that kind of thing. All right. So what about defensively for Deer Creek? I've only seen a little bit of them on film because they weren't on the schedule for the team we played this year, the team that I broadcast for. So what
Mhm.
do they do? Are they a four? Are they three? Do they pressure a lot? What do they do?
They're basically the good thing is they kind of run a similar familiar defense to what we run, the 3-3 stack with the middle high safety in the middle, and that high safety, he's real aggressive. He fits the ball. He's a middle field player most of the time, and so it's real easy for us to give that look during scout team, you
Yeah.
know. And so whenever you have somebody that runs your defense, it just makes it that much easier for you to relate to kids that's giving a good job on the scout on the work team for us. And
We're talking to
so
Antonio Graham. He's the head coach at Owasso. They'll be facing Deer Creek this Friday night at 7 o'clock at Owasso Stadium. I want to remind you, this is sponsored by Tulsa Accident Care Center, and we're all busy these days. Antonio's busy. As a matter of fact, he texted me, "I'm on the way. I'm trying to get there because you've got a lot to do." So do I. So does everybody else. So imagine when you have a lot to do, if you have to go to five different places to accomplish one thing. Well, Tulsa Accident Care Center has taken that away. What they are is an auto injury treatment and accident care center where they do it all in one building. Now they have three locations. They're in Tulsa at 5711 East 71st and Broken Arrow on Kenosha just off the BA and Owasso right by 76th Street North. It's at 314 East 5th Street. Now, and they also have the Fifth Avenue Business Complex right in there. What they've done is taken that all in one place. So prescriptions can happen there. You can get PT there. You can get X-ray and MRI there. You can get medications available. Something really important to know, you can get a same day appointment and there's no out of pocket cost. So if you imagine running all over town or going to one place, and time is hard enough to come by. As soon as we're done here, I've got places to go. So does Coach. Do it in one spot at Tulsa Accident Care Center. You can find them online at tulsaaccidentcarecenter.com. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I think it's fascinating, a lot of the coaches you're coaching against coached you. Some of
mhm.
the coaches you're coaching with coached you.
Yes,
How in
sir.
the world do you approach that? Because you were the guy they were coaching. Now
Mhm.
you're their boss.
Yes. It's a little bit weird sometimes, but the biggest thing is they respect me. They obviously think very highly of me. They show me a lot of support whenever I call and answer. And so that's at the end of the day, on and off the field, we're family. We may not be family for about 90 minutes of the football game, but as soon as the game is over, they want to wish each other well and best of luck to the family, and we're going to talk soon. And so it's we definitely understand that because at the end of the day, Rick, is this is all about mentoring kids and mentoring men and us coming together and helping each other along the way. And so, but the weird, it's very weird whenever you got guys on your staff for sure that coached you or you played under, because most of my guys, they were old teammates of mine, or I watched those guys play, and that's pretty unique. Sometimes, to be honest with you, Rick, it's an honor to be on the field with a bunch of these guys, and sometimes every now and then you got to kind of pinch yourself like, golly, I can't believe I'm coaching against this guy. And it's uncomfortable too because you always want the best for everybody and you want the best for your football team. And there's a lot of heartaches in these football games and you always want to wish people well, but at the end of the day, you just got to make sure you take care of your football team and hopefully it just everything takes care of itself.
Now, the Deer Creek got here with a really close win over Broken Arrow, where BA actually turned it over sometimes, had a bunch of
Mhm.
penalties that really hurt them. I'm not surprised because they actually played better at the end of the year, and they have a lot of offensive talent, Broken Arrow specifically, and they were pretty tough.
Mhm.
Did you pick up anything from that film that they did to Deer Creek that you think might be helpful for you?
The biggest thing is they did a good job of controlling the ball. Deer Creek did. They kept their defense. I mean, they kept Broken Arrow offense off the field a lot. And so anytime that, they were able to control the clock and keep their offense off the field, they really did a good job of time managing at the end of the day. And so, but the biggest thing for us that we have to win on first down. We got to make sure we get that quarterback behind the sticks and be able to put pressure on them. But it's one of those deals. Deer Creek is going to show you, they're not going to, what you see is what you get with Deer Creek. They're going to try to run the football and they're going to try to throw the football down the field. And so they didn't really get exotic or anything like that. Me watching a bunch of film and stuff like that is Deer Creek is going to make sure they execute. They're not going to get too cute or anything like that. They got these certain sets that they do, and they want to be really good at it.
Mm.
And they're like, hey, you need to come stop it. I honestly don't blame them because they got a very good quarterback that's a great leader, and so you don't have to make it too complicated for them. You just want to have good execution, and defensively, they're just sound, and they've been like that all year. Um, Broken Arrow is a great example, and I try to tell my kids that they got better and better and better. They had some ups and downs, but the thing about the playoffs, you want to get in and get hot and win the last one. And so right now, Deer Creek is hot, and we got to get going. And we're definitely coming off a bye week, and my biggest challenge to our guys to practice like it's your last week of practice, and that's just how it should be. Don't leave this practice in. I wish I would have. We have these little tractors that we wear, and I say, man, when I look at those reports, it needs to be the highs it ever be. I shouldn't have to see any lows. I shouldn't have to be yelling like, "Hey, let's pick it up now," because it's playoff time.
Yeah,
You
and by the way, the
know?
trackers, they're GPS trackers. You can actually
Yes,
tell
sir.
how fast a player is going. It's bizarre. I mean, it's really cool, I suppose, but you never thought in our day that we'd be able to do those kinds of things.
Yes,
Now, we
sir.
talked last week about what you wanted to accomplish in your bye week. Did you? And what did you do most last week?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us, me sitting back and was watching some of those first round playoff games and stuff like that. I tried to pick up some things that like, where coaches might have made some mistakes and stuff like, oh, we got to make sure we work on. So last week we worked on a lot of scenario things. We practiced some good on good and we practiced like the timeout. I mean, not timeouts, but the overtime drill. That's a big deal. Like, hey, if the offense scored, we practiced that. We did the 1 minute offense. We did a 2 minute we did a scenario where you got 20 seconds, offense got 20 seconds and we need a field goal to win the game. And so we practiced those scenarios with no timeouts and we rushed the field goal team out there and see if we can make a 30-yard field goal. And so I think you got to practice all those scenarios and make sure that like when you're going through 1 minute and with no timeouts, that the field goal unit is traveling with the offense and stuff like that. And so anything that I can kind of think of where we may get in those scenarios, I want to practice it, and making sure like, hey, defensively, and we do this every week, Rick, but we haven't been in that scenario. I want to work onside kicks over and over and be able to recover those. And, that's an everyday drill for us. But the biggest thing is just working those scenario drills and be able to not just get too rusty and just basically be on. I was really wanted our coaching staff to not take mediocre, like not let our kids go through the motion. It is
Right.
not vacation this week. It's a get better week. And
Yeah, there's a
so
difference between rest and rust. And you
absolutely,
got to make sure they
absolutely.
don't have that. And you want to ramp that up here. And by the way, in your field goal thing, every team in America is showing that TCU at Baylor from 2 years ago when they ran out there and got that done. That's the standard now
Yes,
in how
sir.
you do that. And the last thing I'll ask is about the rust part. So do you ramp it up? Do you ramp it back? How do you get them peaked for Friday?
I just think it comes from the head coach, Rick. It's my attitude. If I go out there acting like, this is not a big deal, they're gonna feel that way. And for me, I worked too hard this year. We got a great senior class and we got 45 seniors this year. And I gotta make sure I go out there like this is our last game. And it's our last game at home, and so excuse me, I want to make sure that my seniors leave this stadium, that they leave here with the win, and they don't want to. I just told them straight up, Rick, y'all want to lose this game as a senior, and this is how you're going to be remembered as. And it hits home. I think you got to be real with them, and that's the bottom line. So let's go out here and get it done, like we should be, because nothing's guaranteed after this week.
And we need to remind fans this is a 7 o'clock game, right? Not 7:30.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Yeah, which normally it's pardon me, normally it's 7:30 in Jinx and in Owasso too. And these games will all be 7 o'clock games. So if you're a fan and you're counting on the normal thing, it's not. So make
Mhm.
sure you get there on time or you may miss
Yes,
several
sir.
touchdowns on the way in. I know what Antonio's hoping you missed those Owasso touchdowns and not the other way around. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, be safe. Have a good week. It's going to be great weather wise, and
Yes,
you go
sir.
get them on Friday.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rick.